You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by footballstadiumprints.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Welcome back, friends. This is The People's Pitch, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC. This is Nate Morales. I'm coming at you live from Lincoln, Montana, in the Lincoln Log Hotel. It's me and the dog from the Sandlot, along with my friend John Bisworm. John, you're back home in Minneapolis, which would probably explain your connectivity. Sounds much better than mine. But here we are. The summer is hardly started. Obviously, we're hoping things slow down a bit, but here I am on a work trip. There you are at home. There's soccer games happening tonight. Neither of us can be there, but we're still going to cover everything that's going on with Minneapolis City.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Nate. We need to figure out how to clone us so we can be at and cover all the case soccer action that's been going on in Twin Cities in the recent weeks. It's a good problem to have, though. But man, did this season decide to kind of come up and bite us in the ass real quick, didn't it?
I think it's good to note for next season, like we actually will need people to help us with some of the other jobs that we do in this organization.
Is it going to take us 9 years to get a podcast intern? I think it's time.
Oh, maybe we can get meat sauce.
Yeah, I don't know if he's doing a lot of soccer coverage, but the big night is we're off. You're off in Montana for the day job, as you noted. Hopefully, Hercules doesn't steal your Babe Ruth signed baseball. But we'll fight through the dodgy internet and come back and find folks with some great insight of the past week around city headquarters. We'll talk about the USL. The USL team they faced off against perennial power in the deep north, the Thunder Bay Chill. The U21s charged ahead into the back half of the UPSL premier season versus Superior City. And the U19s went up against new side Shako-Pele FC and the one and only Shako-Pele, Zach Susi. So let's get right into it, Nate.
Yeah, John. Let's start with the USL2 team. Last season, I forgot about this. It didn't go well when they came to town. I mean, I knew that, but I had forgotten that because of weather, we played that game indoors.
The wildfires.
Because the smoke, it made it impossible for humans to breathe outdoors. Yeah. So when the chill came to town, they brought their own Canadian wildfire smoke with them, and then we had to play indoors, and then they left. They took the full 3 points with them along, but they left the wildfire smoke, so that was cool of them. They were coming into town this time around, sitting atop the table. Actually, I should say when they were sitting atop the table for the return leg in Canada during the 4th of July weekend, it was us that were down to 10 men, and we were able to snag a point. I'm not going to say steal because we really played hard in that game, and we snagged that point, delaying the title for the Chill. And I thought that was, you and I have talked about this, that run into Canada, the 1 point against Chill, 3 points against Manitoba, that really cemented the chemistry of the USL2 team last season, bringing positive momentum to the end of the season where eventually we played Manitoba out of the league. But we finished the season really strong. On the back of Coach Oliver's first win in charge against Rochester FC, of course, anticipation was high this year for this tilt against the Chill, who again came into town, top of the table. They'd only played 1 or 2 games, but still somehow, based on like goals or points per game, we're top of the table. Who did Justin decide to put out for the Crows?
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a changed roster, but there was some definite new inclusions. In goal, you had Evan Siefkin, on the back line, you had Ryan Keefe and the Kemp brothers. And then in front of him, you had Jamison Charles, who on the day was the player to watch.
Yep.
And then you had the inclusion of Joey Tawa, who is making another return back into the fray. In front of them was Eli Goldman, and then you had Lionel Vang, Bernard, CB Rule, Hakeem Morgan, and Siddiqui Jabate. And then on the bench, you had backup goalkeeper Daniel Sessler, Scotty Heinen, Juan Moreno, Curtis Wagner, Dennis Mensa, Stevie Lamar, and Misael Harris.
So let's talk about the first half. First of all, it's notable to mention this was Misael Harris getting his call-up from the U21 team. He had shown enough. We needed an attacker. There were some players that were out of town or unavailable due to injury, and so they looked to Miz to make an impact off the bench. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But let's start out. Things started out pretty similarly to what we saw against Rochester. Oliver had the Crows playing high up the field, putting pressure on the visitors. But I'm going to tell you, John, it was a little shaky at the start after a few missed assignments down the wing. I mean, I would say 2 dangerous passes, one within almost the first 2 minutes. Like who was it? The right winger, it must have been Reveco, right? Just went almost untouched to the end line, put a delicious low ball across the face of net, and there was just nobody there. Like, luckily, nobody there to play it. The runner was late, and he ended up steering that shot, I think, wide left. And it was like, oh crap! If this is how this game is going to go, we're going to be down real early, real fast. But I think that it was, once we really were able to take a breath and understand how this game was going to go, the scouting report was on target. Like, there was going to be long diagonal balls to Diego Reveco. That was what we were going to see the whole day, and it was going to put Max Kent on an island. So what does that do mentally to a player when you're clearly being targeted the way that Max Kent was? Like, they knew we were going to go at him with a 3-back, and they knew that Reveco was going to be able to turn Max Kent at almost every opportunity. So how do you deal with that as a player, as a guy?
That maybe the wingers wingbacks weren't maybe tracking back well. So they had a decent game plan when you're looking at a 3-5-2. But to answer your question, it can go a couple different ways. You can welcome the challenge and level up, thinking they made a mistake in the plans, and you can say, like, come at me, bro. Or you allow yourself to get tired with being switched on time and time again, that you basically organically are going to have one misstep that they wanted to capitalize. But either way, Max, I think, was up to the test from the jump. I mean, he kind of had to figure it out, and I know there was some communication with Lionel Vang, who was in front of him, on kind of helping drop back and cover that. But it had me wondering that if they even needed a left winger, because that guy never saw the ball, and it constantly went to Reveco time and time again. It was almost exhausting to watch and commentate on, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, like, over and over again, they really had no other game plan except, like, figure out how to get the ball to Reveco and see if we can catch Max Kent out or what. And you're right, maybe it was eventually that wingback you'd think would adjust, drop back, but I think probably he was thinking about our game plan of press, stay high up the field, let the defensive midfielders, let Jamison, let Joey do their job and help that back line out, so that Max Kent can get out a little wider and contribute and stop Reveco. But really, it was a lot of times Joey Tawa coming to the rescue, Jamison Charles coming to the rescue, and that's fine, right? That was their job. So I think that, like, all in all, putting Max Kent on an island, probably very stressful for him, but all in all, when we can look at it, after a full game, the team was able to adjust, so it felt good.
Well, how did the rest of the half go?
Go ahead. First half, how did the first half proceed? How do we get our goal?
Well, our goal came off of another set piece. I mean, I know it's one of the talking points that Justin Oliver has, and he wants to win, second and third balls. If you don't win the first one, he wants high pressure, he wants high energy, and with that comes, the fact that you can get set pieces, whether it's a defender tripping up an attacker after a turnover, whether it's a deep throw in, whether it's a corner kick. And I think there was a sequence of like 2 or 3 corner kicks in a row that we got in quick succession, and it fell to Lionel Vang on the left side, puts the ball in, and then defender Ryan Keefe opens up his account, and you're up 1-0. And he was really, I went back and watched it. He was completely unmarked, and it wasn't a situation of, hey, we're going to go zone. It was, hey, we forgot to guard the other super tall guy that Minneapolis City has, and he just basically waltzed in a header. And you're up 1.
And you're up 1-0, and Ryan Keefe gets his first goal for City. And you're right, John. We had another corner shortly after that. The press was working. We were getting the ball in there. We were keeping the ball in their area. And it was Ryan Keefe again, wide open, back post, just like before. He just happened to head the ball into the body of a defender that was kind of just like flopping around.
Into Eli Goldman's face. I went back, like I said, I went back and watched it today, and I was wondering why Eli had a cotton plug in his nose coming into halftime, and I was like, oh, it's because he literally blasted him in the face with a header. So it would have been 2-0, and it would have been a brace from your center back. Yeah,
and within a couple minutes of each other, I didn't notice it. I was wondering why Eli had the cotton ball in his nose. I didn't realize it was from that. But we go into the half, and it's 1-0, and I'm going to say, John, after this first half, just watching the state of play, I would say Thunder Bay owed being down going into halftime due to their own mental mistakes. Like they were, as we said, putting Max on an island the whole half, but so many times they couldn't convert. As we said, there was a dangerous cross within the first minute that Evan Siefken couldn't get to that they muffed. I think number 13 found himself alone at the top of the key on a cross with an open net and just made like a meal of it. I couldn't, like, another time skied it over the crossbar. Like the final pass was not there for Thunder Bay, and not even not there. It was like a crucially bad decision that then turned into a counter for Minneapolis City. So not only was Thunder Bay not being able to convert their chances or be able to create opportunities for themselves, but that inability to create opportunities caused problems for their defense and meant that the game was always kind of on this razor's edge where they were not really sure as a team what foot they were on.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And the I think it could basically, a part of it is due to the pressure that Minneapolis City was applying. I mean, when you don't have anything but either being on your heels, tracking an attack coming at you, or you're pumping a long ball and you're completely foregoing the middle of the field, that's easy pickings for a team.
Yep.
When
you're
that
chaos.
But out of the break, it was more the same, 7 to 8 players pressing high. Either it created a chance, like I mentioned, or off of a turnover, or it got a set piece, like we mentioned, or it forced the chill into that long ball where the back 2 or 3 of City, whether it was the Kent brothers or it was them plus Keefe, just kind of sitting there waiting for the ball. And I mean, listen, I fully understand trying to get the ball to your most creative player, but I felt that it actually took away from the Chill's danger moments, because when they did get him the ball, after kind of that early flurry, when we realized, hey, this is the only way they're going to try to break us down, they made some substitutions, but it was nothing that we were truly worried about. But I felt that they could have actually found pockets of space if they went directly into their number 9, or excuse me, or they looked on the other wing, because we weren't really concerned about that because we knew where the ball was going to go.
No, not at all. And I think a lot of that had to do with the performance of the rest of the players in the first half, when there were plenty of chances to be converted and it just didn't happen, or plenty of passes that could have been made easily that just were directly to Minneapolis City players. So I think in general, though, as we were all kind of on edge in the second half, wondering, are we going to get our second goal? Are the Chill going to make a push? I think both teams were looking to press to create chances. So it was kind of a pressing approach versus a pressing approach. And both teams did have opportunities. I mean, Eli Goldman had a nice opportunity that just went wide left, just barely left, right? Sadike from short range,
where he turned on the penalty spot, and the goalie just somehow like flew his body across the net And that one really, really should have gone in.
Yeah, and I think both teams were weathering the storm, and the problem for Thunder Bay is they weren't hoping to keep the lead, right? They were weathering a storm that and they needed to get out of. They needed to figure out how to get through the clouds and find some attacking danger. And like you said, Reveco just wasn't going to be the answer. We'd figured it out. That's the only place they were going. And especially once Minneapolis City put Wagner on to help against Reveco down the stretch, we went to a 4-back, maybe even looked like a 5-back, and it was pretty much game over from then. We just had to make sure that they couldn't score. The other thing that was interesting, John, is that Minneapolis City did in the last 10 minutes decide to bring on Misael Harris for his USL2 debut. And I'm going to say we were both excited that he was on the roster. Like he had done so much to already. He had scored 5 or 6 goals in the UPSL in a couple of games to deserve a call up. But he made an immediate impact. I think even if he didn't show up on the score sheet, like he was the one, along with Juan Moreno, actually, they kept it threatening down the stretch at a time that we could have just bunkered down and just like crossed our fingers and hoped that Thunder Bay wouldn't score.
We didn't even talk about the fact that Juan Moreno hit the post twice.
Yeah, right? Like down the stretch, John, in the last 10 minutes, last 15 minutes, when you count 80 minutes plus the 5 additional times, Juan Moreno hits the post twice. Misael Harris on a break once or twice, looking for Moreno, trying to take the shot himself. Like we were taking it to Thunder Bay in added time instead of saying, okay, let's just park the bus and hope they can't get through. And I don't think they were ready for that. Like countering every chance we could, and that kept them on their heels.
Yeah, I would say so. I think to wrap this one up, I thought that it was finally nice to see us on the front foot instead of having to play catch up, which is what has kind of been the typical storyline in the USL2 for Minneapolis City. So it was really encouraging to see that. And like you noted, it was encouraging for us to be able to understand, like, we can also close the shop door a little bit. We'll leave it open for some attack, but we can close it up by bringing in and switching to a 4-back or a 5-back or whatever you want to call it. But we had the tools to come in and clean up everything, and then ultimately close the door on our way out. So it was a great 3 points. It was back-to-back wins for the first time in I don't know how long.
And 3 points against the team that won the division last year.
Yeah, and made a huge run into the Sweet 16 of the national playoffs. So really good win. We'd like to maybe see our goal scorers not be center backs, but hey, we haven't given up a goal for almost 5 halves, and so they've been pitching shutouts, but also hitting the home run. So we'll take it. So that wraps up that one. Seeing the Crows get 3 points, and now we're on to a pretty busy week, Nate, for the USL2 side, as they have their first 2-match week, 2 games in 3 days, with their first going their trip to Wisconsin on Thursday, June 13th, to face RKC. The last meeting was Coach Oliver's first game in charge, and it didn't necessarily go the way we wanted it to go, with really only 1 day to prepare. But it ended up being a 3-1 win for RKC, but it felt like it was a situation where a few bounces go our way, a referee's decision to call a penalty kick instead of kind of letting it go play when Shasinski got smashed going in the box, which I thought was a clear penalty. Then you maybe erase Nick Kent's own goal, and that game goes a totally different way. And we talked about it last week on the show when we did the recap, but it although it was a loss, it felt different, right, Nate?
Yeah, and it felt different because obviously it's the first game in charge for Oliver, but also like since then, RKC has proved themselves. I'll say they proved themselves invincible. Right, they just got their asses kicked tonight at home by St. Croix. I think they lost 4-1 this evening.
Over the weekend, I believe.
Oh, over the weekend, yeah. You're right. Yeah, it was just. But either way, like for St. Croix to go down to RKC and just destroy them like they did, like RKC is not the boogeyman that we thought they were, especially when you consider how much this Minneapolis City team has changed, both in attitude and results since we played them, since Oliver took over. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but we're gonna be heading to RKC tomorrow night, Thursday, June 13th. It's going to be 7 p.m. down in Racine, Wisconsin. Stream details are going to be likely to arrive soon, so make sure you keep an eye on those socials.
And then to complete the week, my friends across the border, the Milwaukee Bavarians, make their trip up to the Twin Cities to face the Crows on Saturday, June 15th. The two teams locked horns in a really well-fought 1-0 Bavarians win that saw both sides really have their chances, but it was Bavarians that struggled in the 83rd minute, collecting all 3 points in the game that kicked off the season. But they also, kind of news coming in tonight, the Bavarians were down 3-0 to St. Croix and came back and with almost the final kick of the game, scored the equalizer. So they scored 3 second-half goals. So, this league is
wow.
This league is crazy, man. I mean, you look at a team like that. We played St. Croix. It was on the rebound of us, recently letting our coach or parting ways with our coach and not having Justin Oliver. I mean, how do you even play that game? Yes, we lost that match, but it felt like one that we could easily have won if we had the right pieces in place and everything was going our way. But we didn't. But then you look at St. Croix, who's just been running roughshod on the league, and then they do it again, and the Bavarians pop up second half again, score 3 goals, and now the top of the table is getting a little bit more crowded.
Yeah, I mean, going into this game against Bavarians, very different feel from the first one. Obviously, for all those reasons you pointed out. And really, if you can believe in Minneapolis City, which I do, you believe in the Oliver, Tudor Flintham coaching staff and how they've turned this team's attitude around and turned this team's approach on the field around, like, this game could go like you said, like St. Croix running roughshod on the division, and all of a sudden they give up three goals late to the Bavarians. We were able to keep them scoreless until the death. Like, how do you even predict the Deep North Division at this time? John, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be a fan of USL2 soccer. Exciting time to be a fan of Minneapolis City in the USL2. And if you love Minneapolis City teams winning, it's a very exciting time to be a fan of Minneapolis City UPSL. But we'll talk about that in a second. This game is coming up Saturday, June 15th, 6 p.m., Edward Nelson Field. Of course, that's Augsburg University. Tickets are available online, mplscitysc.com. We've got a special surprise pregame for the fans that arrive. Something's been in the works for a while. I think it's going to blow people's minds.
Well, also, it's Gus's birthday, so you're gonna have to say a little happy birthday to Mr. Gus.
Oh, HBD Gus! I'm excited to make that announcement. Is he going to be in the booth with us?
Are you kidding me? He wouldn't shut up. We won't be able to do our job. So
you're gonna
he'd be so
mic?
Excited. Maybe we'll bring him in.
Gus is actually good on the mic. Gus knows soccer. He'll be able to watch.
With me.
Yeah, he's a stellar. He's a stellar soccer analyst for only a 7-year-old.
He'll be 8. So when I say he won't shut up, I mean if he gets a microphone, you're gonna have to pry it out of his little 8-year-old hand because he won't want to give it.
Well, speaking of the children, let's move on to the U21 team. The U21s welcomed Souptown, Superior City, to Edward Nelson Field last weekend. And John, this Superior City team is one that has not been doing very well in the UPSL Premier Division. They've not had premier performances, even though they sit third from the bottom. Their performances have not been great. Their goal differential is not awesome. Pretty much getting stomped on by most of the teams at the top of the table. And this game was no different. I don't think this team has a lot of cohesion. I'll be honest, just from observing from the booth. There's players,
but they don't have.
They've got some good players. Mally Lumsden from the old Duluth team. Some fans of the NPSL might remember Mally. They've got a few other good players from up in that area.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is, right? Like you have to learn at this level that sometimes like just having the best players doesn't make the best team. And but I'll give it to Superior City from the jump when they started in the league last year. I thought they had a good mix. They had quality players. They had a good presence online. Their standards are very high from an away team coming in perspective. The facilities were nice, and they're putting it together. But it just seemed like maybe this year they kind of came back down to earth from the playing field perspective side of things.
Yeah, and not only that, but I think they don't have a lot of cohesion. Like they have great players or fine players, but the teamwork isn't there, and there's not a feeling of a team. Like you can hear them arguing with each other from the booth. You can hear them arguing with each other from the stands. Like when the goalkeeper is screaming at his players, like, "That is a stupid effing place to give up a foul." Like that's not helpful, right? Like it's your job now to organize the defense and make sure that everyone is gonna be in the right spot so you can make a save if a ball's put on frame. Like you don't need to berate people. And I think that adversarial relationship between the players played out throughout the whole 90 minutes of the game. There was virtually no added time because it was just goal after goal after goal, no celebration, no injuries. This was a FIFA game, John, because in the 14th minute, Misael Harris starts out the scoring with an assist from AJ Wele. Shortly thereafter, in the 16th minute, it's Wele himself with an assist by Carter Hermanson. 32nd minute, it's Griffin Price off a header crossed by Aiden Lee and Griffin. What's that?
That never happens. He's like 4 feet tall.
I know, that was the thing. Is like Griffin Price got a header in, yes, and it was with authority, and that was the third goal. Fourth goal came in the 45th plus minute again by AJ Wele, and that was 4-0 at the half, and we just didn't stop. Right, 51st minute. I'm sorry, it was actually 4-1 at the half because there was an own goal in the 20th minute, kind of deflection off of Mally Lumsden's shot, which was a bummer, but it was the only really threatening moment. So 4-1 at the half, and then Minneapolis City just gets going right out of the gate. 51st minute, Misael Harris gets a second goal with another assist by Hermanson, and then Carter Hermanson gets his own in the 56th with an assist by Griffin Price. So you can just start to see like this attacking front for the Minneapolis City U21s is super dangerous. You got Hermanson, Wele, Harris, Mena when he's in there, Camel 2 when he's in there. You got Griffin Price sitting at the 10. It's really dangerous for any team, especially down this stretch here. But I'm going to say that this game, while the scoreline is really impressive for Minneapolis City, like Superior City fell apart. They started yelling at each other. They started arguing with each other. Nobody trusts each other on that field, and it was just too easy for us to carve them up, which is a bummer because this was the first of 3 or 4 games against bottom of the table teams, and we need to really be ready for Valora. But I'll say that with a caveat because we played FC Minneapolis tonight, and it did not quite go as planned, did it, John?
No, it did go as well. I mean, it did go as plans. There was a win, 4-3 for. Sorry if my notes don't make sense.
No, I get it.
Minneapolis City was able at home tonight to beat FC Minneapolis 4-3. Recap will come next week. So that's another 3 points for Coach Roy and the boys, which I think is positioning themselves exactly how they wanted it. They went through with 1 loss in through the top half of the division. They still have Valora looming in the bushes, but like you said, bottom half of the table is coming, and I think that they're well positioned to make a push for maybe the league title, but also at least make a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think this 4-3 scoreline identifies an issue with this U21 team, and that's the defense, right? But I think it's good that they got a taste of a team that has some offense, and at least provided a learning experience that you can't turn off, no matter the opponent. Because like you said, Valora is coming up even after our game against Granite City, which is next.
Yeah, I think they were up 4-1 at halftime too. But anyways, next up, 5 p.m. Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day, away versus Granite City in St. Cloud. Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the stream, so maybe we'll strike gold there. But up next, the U19s taking on Shako-Pele.
Yeah, so John, this was a game that was I was looking forward to because it was the return of Zach Susi. It looks like Zach Susi went back to play for his boyhood club, the Shako-Pele FC. Shako-Pele had a youth program that Zach Susi came out of, and we identified him as a player, brought him into our club, and he was very successful for us as a Minneapolis City player. I think a lot of him joining Shako-Pele has to do with, one, he probably has a relationship with a couple coaches, but two, he's probably also got some commitments this summer, and he couldn't really commit to playing for Minneapolis City at a high level. So here he is playing for Shako-Pele, and I only bring that up because Zach Susi was the game changer in this game. Right out of the gate, the game plan was clearly Shako-Pele to Susi. Susi hoping to make some runs forward and break that back line of our young U19 team. We were able to hold him off at first, and in fact went into the half 0-0. But I would say that first half was very nervy, John. Chances on both sides, nothing close to dangerous for both, except for a couple of really early Susi runs and shots. But I'll start this recap out by reminding the fans that this is why we found out in this game why we roster 35 guys. And it's because at the U19 level, especially here at this kind of deep run to the playoffs for some kids on their club teams or vacations or whatever they have to do, there are just not a lot of guys that can be available. So it was definitely a different squad that was out there, but it was still a very, very good squad. You had Miles Redmond out of Wayzata, who's a commit to, I believe, St. Olaf, right?
I think so.
Or Gustavus, Charlie Pillar, another Mayak commit out there playing at the midfield. You had Cy Friesen. We had Micah O'Leary, who, John, you and I were like, who is that guy? Well, he played for the FC Barcelona Academy in Arizona and had just moved up here with his family. So he's a very good player, right? But there are a lot of players that weren't available to start or were not even available at all to be on the roster that Scotty usually calls on in these kind of games. So I'll say that we go into the second half, and I'll blame myself, John. I'm going to blame myself. Thinking I've got a positive relationship with Zach Susi after our many interviews with him, our many interactions face to face, handshakes, high fives, that sort of thing, I give him a little good-natured ribbing, and I say, Zach, what's up with the extra large basketball shorts? And he didn't smile, he didn't laugh. He said something like, "This is exactly what they always give me, just like when I was with your club." I'm like, "What?"
I think it might just be body type. I don't know. Sorry, Zach.
And within 2 minutes after the second half began, it was a really nice ball intercepted out of the air, headed on to Zach Susi. He had a mile of space in midfield, which he took, drove directly up the middle of the field, and laid a really nice through ball into his man. I have no idea who scored for Shako-Pele, sorry, and he beat Sessler 1v1 for the only goal of the game. And this is what I was talking about, this is why we roster 35 guys. Scotty Heinen tries to make some changes, brings on Hadi Benitez and some other game changers late that were not available to play for the full 90 or and it just it wasn't happening for Minneapolis City U19s on the afternoon. So Shako-Pele comes away with the win, 3 points to Shako-Pele, but not all is bad out of this one for Minneapolis City U19s because things are going pretty good for them in general. When you take in the big picture and why we have this team and why we want to develop these players, it's working out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they're currently, well, I won't say currently playing, the game's over now, but they were down in Rochester playing Rochester FC 2, and they come away with a score line of 7-0. So another 3 points for the good guys. The recap again will come next week, but have a day, Colin Vilm. I was told that he had 3 goals and 2 assists. So that's the first hat trick in Minneapolis City UPSL Midwest West Division 1 history. That was a mouthful to say. So congratulations, Colin. Definitely joining the ranks of legends like Tim Wills and Miles Stockton Willis. So congratulations. No one can ever take a hat trick away from you. And Whitney Brown. Whitney Brown's going too. But so before the results tonight, this team I think is sitting pretty well. They're currently on 8 points. That'll give them 11. And that's only 2 points off the top spot, currently occupied by Bateau FC, which is not a bad place to sit, especially if you're trending forwards. I mean, this division it's kind of wide open right now. So I know that Bateau now has a game in hand, but even if they were to pull the 3 points away, it sounds like we might be tied for first place.
Which is, John, you and I talked about this at the beginning of the season. Like, you never know what's going to happen in Division 1. It's going to be a sorting of sorts between who the talent is and who's just feeling a team to feel the team. And I think Minneapolis City will compete long term in Division 1.
But they do have a tough matchup next. Up next for them, 4 p.m. Sunday, another Father's Day tilt at Edor Nelson Field, June 16th, on the campus of Augsburg University. Skills FC comes into this match, and much like what you see with someone like the Shako-Pele, Zach Susi, is an older player that has experience at higher levels, can clearly change a game by themselves. And what you have coming in is another former Crow, Jake Popkin. So this really going to be one where the guys, at least defensively and in the midfield, have to be tuned in, because he is one of the players in the division we mentioned before that can single-handedly take over a game. So anyways, that game once again is 4 p.m. Sunday, June 16th at Edor Nelson Field, Skills FC, and the stream will be on VO Live, but also the game's free. So hey, if you don't have Father's Day plans or you're done with them, just get there. I might try to get there. I know Scotty's already asked me if I wanted to attend and sit on the bench as a Father's Day gift, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. But I'll try. I'll at least be watching the VO Live for that one. So that'll do it for this week's show, folks. Thank you to our wonderful show sponsor, FootballStadiumPrints.com. Our friends at FootballStadiumPrints.com are always expanding their soccer-focused T-shirt designs, prints, and more. And don't forget to use the code CROWS10, that's CROWS10, for 10% off everything you purchase. And remember, all orders shipped from the United States. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so you can feel good about your membership doubling as a charitable donation to the club that does good. Memberships for the 2024 season are still available. I believe they're going to probably be cut off pretty soon, but they're still available. And don't wait any longer, to snag your seat in the stands and get some sweet swag for all a price that destroys the club's price of entry across town. Head on over to mplscitysc.com and get yours today. Remember, you can always find us on Twitter X at The People's Pitch. We are now on Instagram at People's Pitch Podcast. And you can even email us if you have any questions or topics you want covered. Please do. It's pretty much just preview, recap, or recap, preview. So we'd love to throw some stuff in there. We have a couple things in the mix that are coming up in the next couple of weeks here. But if you have anything you want us to talk about, you can get us on email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can always connect with us the club on Twitter X at MPLSCitySC. So that does it for this week's show. I'm John. That was Nate from the Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West.
Yeah, big week for the Crows. So get on out to the matches, watch the streams, enjoy the action, and of course, you got hoofed.